The infant is really adorable, isn't it? When we went to the obstetrics and gynecology clinic for a friend's baby shower, my husband stated this to me. It's true that the infant resembles you. He shot out, "Why would the baby look like me?" Odessa chuckled and continued, "Don't say weird things." It was nevertheless a surprise to neither of them that they were being investigated. I gave them an envelope that was exquisitely packaged. They were so astonished when they opened the contents that their mouths fell open. Someone else asked them a question. The hospital room had already descended into full chaos in this trying situation. "I am Emma Johnson. At a nearby company, I have worked as an executive secretary for 28 years, and my spouse, Elliot, is the son of the president and future president of the company. Being an executive secretary and marrying the future president may seem like great things on the outside. But for me, who ought to have been joyful, the worst scenario happened. Odessa has been a lifelong buddy of mine. Although it may sound overly dramatic to refer to someone as a lifelong best friend, our parents have been close friends since their undergraduate years. We spent every school year together from kindergarten to high school because we were close in age and shared a home. Odessa attended a university in New York, therefore there was a distance between us, but we continued to communicate. We didn't get to hang out much after college, but we still managed to stay in touch at least once a month and always managed to catch up when Odessa visited her family. I felt a close sisterly affinity with Odessa. I conferred with Odessa when I began dating Elliot, and when we made the decision to tie the knot, she was just as thrilled for me as if it were her personal happiness. Elliot chuckled and remarked, "You two really are close," at the wedding when he noticed that I was crying during Odessa's statement on behalf of our friends. With the help of my devoted buddy and loving spouse, I was ecstatic. But gradually a cloud started to descend over my marital bliss. The cause was my inability to conceive. It was 2 years after our marriage before I realized it. While people may believe it has just been 2 years, I was actively researching fertility because I wanted children. Elliot and I had a bridal check performed before we were married to make sure there were no problems. Should I begin therapy and have a fertility test? I pondered. Elliot reassured me that our bridal check went well and that stressing would only make things worse. Even without kids, we're content together. It's preferable to unwind and savor our time together. Despite Elliot's reassuring remarks, I was suddenly filled with a strong desire to have an heir. I loved Elliot, and my greatest want was to have a child with him. "Let's take our time and not rush," Elliot comforted me. But I made the decision to ask Odessa for help since I was nervous. Odessa had previously resided in New York, but soon after our wedding, she moved back to our hometown. We didn't meet till she came to visit while she was in New York. However, Elliot and the outgoing Odessa hit it off well right away, and as of late, they had been having different talks at our house nearly every week. Sincerely, talking about infertility is difficult, but Odessa was always willing to listen when I opened out to her. However, Odessa cautioned, "Take your time." Elliot also advises taking it easy because fretting excessively can backfire. Of course, she was correct. Worrying over not being able to conceive made matters worse and made pregnancy more difficult. I frequently hear tales of individuals getting pregnant the instant they give up trying, but processing emotions is a difficult task. A few months later, Elliot had left early for work one weekend when I was having problems. I used to overthink things when I was alone a lot. It was the doorbell ringing. "Are you there, Emma? You're probably worrying about something by yourself." Whoa! Today I brought a nice treat. What a fantastic friend Odessa is, as always. She brought my favorite cake with her. Odessa had been very busy recently, and weekend visits had decreased. Odessa's visit felt almost like a gift from heaven because Elliot was out at work and I was alone at home. "Odessa, you have my affection." I gave Odessa a hug and exclaimed, how was she aware that I was by myself today? I hadn't informed her that Elliot was out today. He was gone for the weekend. I wasn't suspicious at the time. I was just enjoying Odessa's visit and our little conversation. Actually, I've met someone interesting after a long time, Odessa blurted out. With a joyful voice, she reported this. Are you in a relationship? How does he seem? My own exhilaration increased. No, it's not a boyfriend, Odessa said with a mysterious smile. It didn't feel quite right, but they weren't even dating yet. I asked for more information because it felt like that kind of circumstance. Odessa had high expectations from the beginning. Odessa was inherently attractive to men despite her modesty, so it seemed sense that she had such high expectations. What kind of individual would satisfy Odessa's requirements? I kept asking additional questions out of curiosity. He really suits me. He's really generous and grants all of my desires. In addition, he is wealthy, skilled at do-it-yourself projects, and a future president, according to Odessa. It was very Odessa-like that. You've always stated that you wish to be wealthy, kind, and attractive. Odessa had gone back home after failing to find someone who fit her requirements in New York. It took her by surprise to find the perfect match in our hometown. Do you have a photo of him? I asked. I couldn't get one, she replied. For a moment, the description of being a future president and good at DIY reminded me of Elliot. The similarities to Elliot concerned me, and I continued to ask questions. What kind of work does he do? Where did you meet him? I asked, but when it came to specifics, Odessa didn't provide any details. Yet there could be other future presidents who were good at DIY. It piqued my curiosity a bit, but since it's rude to pry into things she didn't want to talk about among close friends, I decided to drop the subject. Though we enjoyed a lively conversation for a while, Odessa suddenly remembered she had something to do and said, Oh, I forgot I have an errand to run, Emma. See you later, and hurried home. Elliot was also going to be late tonight. Recently, due to his busy work schedule, Elliot often stayed at a hotel near his office on weekdays and spent most of the weekends away from home on business entertainment. During that time, I was left at home, deep in thought. About 6 months later, Odessa contacted me with important news. What could have happened? In the afternoon, when Odessa visited my home, she looked me in the eyes and said, Don't be mad, okay? I am actually pregnant. The shocking news came from the unmarried Odessa. Whose child could it be? I was surprised, but saw no reason to be angry. Why did Odessa think I would be angry? I smiled and said, If you're happy, Odessa, then I'm happy too. Congratulations. Are you going to marry him? If you do, let me do the speech. In response, Odessa looked a bit somber and said, I'm not thinking about marriage, but he will support me, so it is okay. So it's like a common law marriage? I asked, and Odessa quietly nodded. What about your parents? I probed further, and Odessa replied, Please keep it a secret from my parents. I'll explain it to them. There might be specific circumstances she can't disclose to others. When I heard she had a boyfriend 6 months ago, I felt she was hiding something, but it seemed best not to delve too deeply. With this in mind, I responded, understood, and only encouraged her by saying, Have a healthy baby. However, after Odessa left and I was thinking at home, a sinister thought crossed my mind. Could it be that Odessa had an affair with a married man and ended up pregnant as a result? But who could that partner be? Odessa hadn't revealed anything about him. But something suddenly occurred to me. She had previously mentioned that her partner was a future president skilled in DIY. Elliot is also proficient in DIY, often making furniture to his liking for our home. Although he's been too busy with work lately to engage in such activities, we still cherish the furniture he made at the beginning of our marriage. Could it be that Elliot is Odessa's partner? That can't be possible. I trust that neither Odessa nor Elliot would betray me. However, once I start doubting, it's hard to stop these thoughts. Looking back, Odessa returned to our hometown around the time she became close to Elliot, and it coincides with when Elliot started staying away from home due to work, and when Odessa stopped visiting our house. Is this just my imagination? It must be just in my mind. It's unthinkable that Elliot and Odessa could be involved. To dispel these doubts, I decided to hire a detective to investigate if there was an affair. I couldn't believe I was doing this, but if things remained unclear, it would always nag at me. I thought if the detective found nothing between Elliot and Odessa, I could wholeheartedly celebrate Odessa's pregnancy. However, it turned out to be a mistake. A few weeks later, I received the report from the detective. The results clearly showed that Elliot and Odessa were having an affair, and it was highly likely that the child Odessa was pregnant with was Elliot's. Faced with the detective's report and decisive photographic evidence, I was at a loss for words. My suspicions turned into certainty, and I was shocked by the reality. The pain of being betrayed by my beloved husband and best friend soon turned into anger, and I thought I could never forgive them. However, considering that Odessa was pregnant made me hesitate to take any action. I decided to wait until Odessa gave birth and then confront them both. Finally, I received the news that Odessa had delivered her baby. Neither Elliot nor Odessa could have dreamed that I was aware of their affair. Upon receiving the happy news of the birth from Odessa, I began planning a congratulatory visit. When Elliot returned from work, I casually brought up the news. Odessa had her baby. I told him, and he responded, "Really? That's wonderful." Despite the fact that I hadn't told Elliot about Odessa's pregnancy, he reacted as if he already knew. Surprisingly calm, I asked, "Did you know Odessa was pregnant?" "Hey, no." "What are you talking about?" he replied, but his reaction was clearly flustered. I decided to leave that conversation there and suggested, "Let us go congratulate her this weekend. Will you come with me?" "Me too," Elliot asked. "Yes, it has been a while. Both you and Odessa have been busy, and it has been almost a year since you saw each other," I said. "Oh, right, it has been that long already." Elliot's expression changed and his eyes darted around. They say people often look up to the right when they lie, so maybe I could enjoy watching his reactions a little longer. But if anything more comes to light, it might make all my efforts futile. Then the day of the celebration arrived. I took with me to the maternity ward where Odessa was admitted. "Odessa, congratulations for real," I said. "Thank you," Odessa responded. In the hospital room, Elliot, who had been fidgeting behind us, also joined in. "Odessa, it has been a while." "Congratulations." "Ah, thank you," Elliot said. Their interaction was awkward to the point of seeming forced, as if they were acting in the hospital's newborn room. We were informed that a healthy boy had been born. The three of us went to the room, and Odessa proudly pointed out her baby. "There, the third baby from the right." "He's still so tiny," Odessa said. The baby was facing us, and his face was clearly visible. Every baby is adorable, but this child was born from an affair. Thinking about what his life might become pained my heart. Should I step back silently doing nothing, or should I take some action? However, if I do nothing, nothing will change between these two. As unfortunate as it is for this baby, a proper resolution is necessary. When we returned to Odessa's room, her parents were there for a visit. I introduced Elliot while exchanging greetings. After the greetings settled, her mother asked, "How is the baby? Was he awake?" Elliot replied enthusiastically, "Yes, he was awake. Really cute." Then he turned to me and said, "The baby is super cute, isn't he?" I responded, "Absolutely. He looks just like you." Elliot laughed and said, "Why would he look like me? How could he resemble you, I wonder?" "Because he's your child," I retorted. Elliot panicked. "Wait, please don't say things that could cause misunderstandings." Odessa joined in the exchange, laughing and retorting, "Don't say weird things." If both of them react too passionately, it might only make them more suspicious. With that thought, I muttered, "Is it really a misunderstanding?" "Well, whatever," and continued, "Look at this, a surprise present. I hope you like it," handing Odessa a beautifully wrapped envelope. "What's this? Can I open it?" Odessa said, surprised. She still hadn't realized that she was under suspicion. Next to me, Elliot chuckled. When did you prepare this? As Odessa opened the envelope and looked inside, she was speechless, her expression frozen in shock. What's wrong? I asked. Odessa opened and closed her mouth without making a sound. Elliot, curious about her reaction, peered into the envelope and lost his voice with a stutter. Seeing Odessa and Elliot's reactions, her parents also became concerned and asked me, "What happened? Emma, what did you give her?" I took the envelope from Odessa and said, "Are you ready to see this? It's not pleasant," and handed it to her mother. As her mother was about to open the envelope, Odessa shouted, "Wait." Her mother exclaimed upon looking into the envelope, staring at Elliot and saying, "This is the surprise present I had given to Odessa." It was the photographic evidence of her affair with Elliot provided by the detective. The photos clearly showed Elliot's face, leaving no room for doubt. "Are you Emma's husband?" her mother asked Elliot, seeking confirmation. Elliot looked down, unable to respond. At that moment, an angry voice from her father echoed in the room, "Silence solves nothing. Say something." Odessa and Elliot trembled under the force of his voice. Her mother pressed Odessa, saying, "Didn't you say he would acknowledge the child? You said you wouldn't marry but would raise him together. How could you plan to do that with Emma's husband?" Odessa was at a loss for words, merely stammering, what on earth were you thinking to do this with someone else's husband, especially Emma's longtime friend? Why would you do such a thing?" "Don't just stay silent. You must have something to say." Her father raised his voice further. Odessa simply remained silent, bowing her head. "Do you think staying silent will solve anything?" I asked. I would not allow it to end there. I directly confronted Odessa. "Why did you betray me?" Odessa responded defiantly, "It's not fair. I've always been more popular. Why should you get to marry someone handsome and wealthy like Elliot? Why did it turn out this way? I should have been the one to marry him. Everyone envied you for marrying Elliot. Plus, you couldn't have children, but I got pregnant right away. That means I am more suitable for Elliot." This was Odessa's true character. I had always known she was disliked by many. However, I never expected her to act this way towards me. Elliot remained silent, just looking down. He was probably swept away before he knew it, pursued by the beautiful Odessa. "We're celebrating. Why not invite your father as well? After all, this is his first grandchild," I proposed as I took out my phone. Elliot begged me to wait. "Please don't do that," but I went ahead and called. After giving a quick phone call explanation of the situation, my father-in-law, the president, arrived at the hospital right away. When I presented him with the proof of Elliot's affair, he became mute and asked, "What have you done?" Elliot appeared pale and plainly worried when his father arrived. Since he was a little child, he had been brought up rigorously as the future president. Elliot's greatest fear was of his father, the president. Elliot's actions infuriated his father, who had always respected honesty, and he said, "Do you comprehend what you've done? This is hardly the behavior I would expect from my son. Never again reveal your face to me." After remaining silent, Elliot begged, shaking, "Please wait. It was only a lapse in judgment. I gave in to the need. I promise that won't occur once more. Please pardon me." But his dad snarled, saying, "You're apologizing to the wrong person." Elliot turned to face me at that point and sincerely apologized. "Emma, you are the only person in my heart. I really want to start again with you." "It was far too easy." Odessa cried out. "Wait, why am I being painted as the villain while I stared icily on? It's mutually beneficial. It would be awful to characterize it as merely a moment of weakness. You told me Odessa is the best, didn't you?" "Untruths. That is not what I said. I only love Emma," Elliot shot back. The mood got nasty at that point as Odessa and Elliot intensified their blame game. "I've had enough," I declared. "Be quiet," Elliot's dad yelled. They were both too scared to move. "You are quitting the company, Elliot. I won't let you take over this business. You have to fend for yourself in life from now on, Elliot's father said. Odessa's father also uttered somber words after making his declaration. Odessa, I can't support you anymore. Get out of the house. Both were left in utter isolation when her parents disowned her. I told them, I will file for divorce and take my share of the property. Disgusted by what I had witnessed, you two can live happily ever after that. But Elliot begged frantically, Emma, please wait and pardon me. Shall we restart this, please? No, I answered. I think of the two of you every time I see you. Never again come before me. I'll dial 911 if I find myself in a tight spot. Father-in-law, that's acceptable, right? I questioned him about it. Without delay, he said, Of course. Kindly continue as you would like, Emma. I sincerely apologized, I said. When I heard this, I immediately took out the divorce documents and had Elliot sign them while crying. I then said goodbye to Odessa's parents and disappeared into the hospital room. The property distribution was settled amicably, and Elliot gave me a one-time payment. In the end, Odessa and Elliot's disagreement intensified from a mild disagreement in the hospital room to a vicious fight. They separated in the end, even though they had a child. Odessa presumably chose to sever relations with Elliot due to the latter's loss of his role as the country's future president. After being forced from their house and experiencing financial hardship, Odessa's parents took in the youngster. After depleting their resources to pay alimony, they are now struggling to make ends meet. Elliot's father told me, if you don't mind, I would like you to continue working with me while I was thinking about quitting. In the end, I kept working for him as a secretary. While some coworkers gossiped, most of them gave me encouragement, telling me that there was still life to live. I began extending my reach to cultivate new relationships. I never thought I would lose my best friend and husband at the same time, but unexpected things happen in life. I shall carry on leading an upright life and walking the path of righteousness.